I want to show you this book because, as I explained it more than one time, you don't need to buy new books in order to learn chess, new and expensive books. No, you can do it also with old books. As you can see, this book is broken. I paid it less than $10, but it contains the games of one of the top players of chess for nearly 50 years, because he had a very long career. In fact, this is a part of the two books. Volume 1 is Games with White, 50 games played by Korchnoi that he won with White, and then there is Volume 2 that is Games with Black, but I didn't find it, sorry. So I bought only this. And here Korchnoi also tells us the criteria for choosing the games, because obviously he said, if I was a young grandmaster it would be very easy, no, to choose my game, but I have chosen these 50 games with White out of over 2,000 that I won. So obviously you have to have some criteria. Obviously one of the criteria was games with low mistakes. Also, if he said in critical moments we all make mistakes. And then another criteria that was important was that the game was actually telling something to the reader, something he had to share. And so, with that said, obviously there were more criteria. You can read it in the book. I would like to show you game number 3, which was Korchnoi White against Geller in the 24th USSR Championship in Kiev in 1954, right? So a long time ago. Why I choose this game? Because Korchnoi opens with e4. Generally, the few games I have seen by Korchnoi are all c4 games or d4, and so I never saw one of these games with e4, and so I was curious about it. Keep in mind, however, that when Korchnoi plays e4 and his opponent plays e5, he's practically playing a Sicilian in reverse, so he clearly knows how to play e4, also if for a totally different side, let's say, right? So e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, d6, bishop g5, e6, queen d2, and bishop e7. And here there is a comment. It says, at the end of the 20th century another setup is more often employed, which is a6, he said, bishop e7, a6, and then castle and h6. So okay, so after bishop e7, castle, and here there is an immediate attacking move for white. You can pause the video and try to find it for yourself. Obviously the move is f4. Here it says the most natural move. White begins an offensive in the center and on the king side. Life is also not easy for black after knight b3. Okay, but this f4 seems kind of interesting. e5. Here Korchnoi says an innovation. I thought at the board, I did not know that 6 months earlier in the candidate tournament in Zurich, so the famous Zurich 1953, Geller had already played this against Kotov. It is hard to refute on sight a well-prepared innovation. Kotov did not in fact try. He exchanged on c6 and on e5. Then exchanged heavy pieces on the d file, and the players agreed to a draw. And I had lost the previous day, and today I was dreaming of winning one back. So imagine this comment is kind of interesting because this game is played in 1954. He says that the famous candidate tournament Zurich 1953, and now I show you the book. So this is one of the most important chess books mentioned by everybody as the book that will bring you to grandmaster level chess, because it's made a lot of games, I think nearly 200 probably or more, where they are all top level players of that period, and analyzing these games will give you a positional understanding and of course also a tactical combination understanding, because there were some things they avoided during the game that you will ask yourself why they didn't play this, and in fact there was a reason behind. In any case, what is important to understand is that Korchnoi is speaking of 1954, and he says, I don't know what happened in 1953. So can you imagine how lucky we are today that with just a few clicks on the computer, I know all the games played in 2023 or 2024, and maybe there are a million games, and Korchnoi didn't know the games of this tournament that today is so celebrated, and this book has sold so many copies, but obviously it was made quite after, and probably Korchnoi didn't have access to it in 1954. So notice that there is also another version of that book, I think written by Najdorf. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Okay, so after e5, what does white play here? White plays knight f3. And of course, here there is a theoretical comment by Korchnoi. I will avoid it because, guys, it's a little boring sometimes, this thing. Bishop g4. With this developing move, black gains control of the d4 square, because this is pin, right? h3. And here it says bishop e2 looks more natural since black has brought out his bishop to g4. It is obvious that he will soon capture on f3, but I was impatient to open files and diagonals. Generally speaking, however, later games showed that white would not gain any advantage by quiet play. So he says practically that h3, the move he played in the game, is more energetic and more positive for white, because it opens the files and he wants to attack this king, right? Bishop takes f3, g takes f3, and knight d4. So black was able to use his outpost. In comments written soon after the conclusion of the game, I consider h6. And he says, now I would not bother looking at such a move. That's really funny, because the thing is, I've noticed too that in my first tournament games, I wrote some comments. That's why chess base was very, very important. In that time, I think I had chess base 12. Now we are at chess base 18. And now when I see that those comments, it make me laugh, because I also would not consider those moves at all, and I would play other moves or take a different approach. So that's kind of a very interesting this comment made by Korchnoi. Okay, so after knight d4, what does white play? Because here he's attacking this, so he says f takes e5, he played, and now you cannot play this, it seems. Why? Because there is this. So imagine how interesting it is, the situation. Knight takes f3, here, obviously, here. Now, obviously you don't want, that's why you played that, right? Because you don't want to give the queen back. So what do? I don't know, let's say that he does this, and this guy gets it back, so gets it back. And here we have practically a 9, 10, 11 against 5, 8, 11. The difference being, however, that white has the bishop pair and the two rooks, so maybe can organize a strong attack on that side. I don't know. This is, however, a position that, guys, I would like you to try to play against an engine, because we would discover if we are able to win as white or not. And then, of course, ask also the engine to play it as white, so you see how the engine can win both sides no matter what. Okay, let's return back to the position. So this is the position back as it was when white played f takes e5, and black plays d takes e5, because Korchnoi says knight takes f3, not good. So now we come, obviously, and this is why Korchnoi put a diagram, because he wants to tell a story to the reader. And the story is that in that time he played rook g1, and one of the famous things about Korchnoi is that he's very hard on himself when he analyzes, and that he analyzes very deeply. And here he says, but this is inconsistent, logical and strong, was f4, contesting black's domination of the dark squares. Obviously, the problem is that if we don't even know what is the domination of the dark squares, it's a little difficult to understand Korchnoi, right, in this contest. Here he gives us a continuation. In reality, he gives two different continuations, in which the advantage ends up with white. He also put the Yugoslav encyclopedia, because obviously before chess base there was this encyclopedia of the openings made by the Yugoslavian, in which the answer to f4 is knight e6. And the two lines that he put are one, knight h5, and the other is queen e5. This he says is dubious, and this he says at the end white stands slightly better. He gives a line that is about 5 moves long, and I will show it to you because probably it's important. Bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, f takes e5, and now we have knight f3, after which there is queen e3, knight takes e5, bishop e2, knight f6, and knight d5. And here the evaluation is white stands slightly better. Now let's go back to the position that it was in the game, because obviously, that's what was the real comment by Korchnoi, right? So I think I put it right. I hope so. If not, I'm sure you will bombard me with messages in the comment section, and then I will have to throw away the video. But okay, so he played here rook g1, okay, and here it says at the end that obviously inconsistent, and it was better f4, but he says in the end, but white does not rise to the occasion by deviating from the correct path for the sake of a dubious trap. He puts his position in jeopardy. So what is the trap, you say? Well, the trap is that this is not defended, right? So that's the problem. And so if he plays this, he attacks both of them, and he says, look, black did knight takes f3, and he says, miraculous, the trap works. By accepting the pawn sacrifice, black comes under a strong attack. How should have black continued here? It seems the best move was rook c8, and here it gives a big line to explain why this is the right move, and gives a big advantage to black. Instead, this is the wrong move. Who would have said it, right? And it's a trap. Let's see how white continues with this, right? So white plays knight f2, sorry, queen f2, queen f2, and black plays queen b6. Wow, beautiful move. Interesting, because you see, queen f2 attacks this and attacks the queen. The queen moves here because if you take this, he will take back the rook there. So it's a kind of interesting situation. But Korchnoi says probably this was better. Knight takes d4. And after queen g3, he would have played g6. So that's what Korchnoi says. Let's see what continue here. Bishop e3. Wow. Attacking the queen b6. Knight d4. That's nice. And now, guys, once more, get your little clock, turn it, pause the video, and think for a few minutes what would you play here. Okay, you need to think what you're going to play here as white. White played an exchange sacrifice. Rook takes d4. and probably this was not so seen by Geller, right? And Geller was a top player in 1954. E takes d4, bishop takes d4, and another serious mistake. It seems black should have played queen e6, instead he went with queen d8, to which knight d5, and here there is knight e8, that is the only move black should have played, and here Korchnoi shows if you play this that black loses, okay? So knight e8, queen g3, threatening the checkmate if you can remove this as a defender, right? And f6. Obviously, you know, guys, this is why the new generation of players are definitely better, because they have played against computers multiple times, willingly or unwillingly, when some people cheat online, and they have learned that there are amazing defensive moves that you generally don't see when you are under pressure, and so the computer in a sense teach you that, right, to find the best defensive move, and f6 wasn't that right one. Bishop c4, rook f7, and once again, guys, use your little clock, turn it, pause the video, and try to find what is the right move for white in this position. The right move was knight f4. As you can see, he let this hang. So you need to obviously see why black cannot really take an advantage by taking on d4, okay? If you don't see that, you need to see it. Black continue with bishop d6, but I will show you what happens after rook takes d4. There is bishop takes f7, king takes f7, and now a move that maybe you didn't see, queen b3, check. You see, check. King f8, and knight e6, check again, and takes the queen. So that's why you cannot really take that bishop. And now we return back, right, to that position that we were before, and I think this was here and this was here, right? So once more, I hope that I put the pieces back as it was. If not, complain or do whatever you need to do. I think it was this position, and white played knight f4, and you cannot take that, right? So bishop d6 was the answer by Geller, but after bishop takes f7, king takes f7, queen b3, again this queen b3 comes out continuously, king e7, you can see the last move that makes white win. Once more, try to think a little, because it's kind of very, very important, right? Otherwise you're wasting your time if you just watch the game without thinking what you should play as white. White played bishop takes f6, and the game is over. And you say, why? Why is over? Tell me why. Well, let's say if you take g takes f6, right? What do you have? You can have queen e6, king f8, and rook g8, checkmate, right? So G takes F6 doesn't seem to work. Right, okay. Let's see. You could also play probably this. No. Rook G7 you cannot play because it takes. So yes, it's check, tack, mate. And this is done, right? So we see why you cannot do that. Now, if you do this, what does white do? It gives checkmate right away with this. So, because you cannot go here, since there is that, you can go here, you can go here. So, as you can see, a beautiful game by Korchnoi. Other games are much longer and probably they are more interesting, especially for the endgames. As you can see, this is a book that I found for like $10. It's damaged, yes, but it contains 50 games by a player who had a career which was 50 years long. So obviously you can learn a lot from these games, or you just enjoy the battles that Korchnoi played in half a century. Thank you very much for watching and see you again.